Hey guys, John here. This is going to be the practical for the intermediate course. And what we're going to be doing in this course is we're going to create a banking system. Now, a banking system for a game, if you ever played like anything like RuneScape or some RPG or whatever, they have a banking system where you can go to the bank, you can check your balance, you can deposit items, you can withdraw items, right? So we're gonna do it just with money though. We're gonna create almost like a real life banking system. And pretty much the way it's gonna work is I've created a scene here with just a player and a cube that's gonna act as the bank. And you walk up to it and you can check your balance, you can deposit money, and you can withdraw money, okay? Now, what I've got here is I just went to the asset store. I'm sorry, not the asset. I went to the scripting reference for a character controller, and I took exactly what they had there. I didn't touch anything. What I am going to do though is I'm going to go ahead and say void calculate movement. I'm going to put that in a custom function so it's not cluttered in update. And then we're going to go ahead and get started on developing this system from scratch. Alright, so what is a banking system? Alright, so when writing programs, like this, or software games, or anything really, you should try and think in a modular approach. So what is modular programming? Modular programming is a design technique that basically emphasizes separating the functionality of a program to make it independent. So for instance, what if we had 3 different banks in our game? Instead of having a script for Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and BB&T, I can have one generic script that allows me to define every single bank. So we're going to create a custom class that's going to define our bank and the functionality of the bank. We're going to create a blueprint for a bank, and it's going to allow us to have multiple banks in our game if we choose to. So what we're going to do here is let's go ahead and create a new script here, and we're just going to create our bank class. So our bank class is here. And we're not going to inherit from auto behavior, right? It's just going to be a blueprint for a bank, and we're going to have a bank manager that's going to define each bank. So how does this work? Well, what does a bank have? So every bank has a name, right? You have a name for a bank. Maybe each bank has a different amount of cash. We could say public int cash in vault. And then we'll have some functions. What can you do at a bank? For instance, you can check your balance, right? So you can have a public function, public void, check balance, right? And then what else can we do? We can do public void deposit, and we could do public void withdraw. All right, so those are the basics of what you can do at a bank, right? So remember, this class is just a blueprint of a banking system. Now what we're going to do is we need to create a manager class that's going to define these banks for us. And remember, in order to see it in the inspector, we need the system.serializable. I'm also going to try and keep this video as raw as possible. I have not created this before, so if we run into errors, I apologize in advance. I really don't like editing my videos, so I will try and do this correctly the first time. Alright, so here's our banking class, pretty simple. Now in our player, what does our player have? We can have our player here has, for instance, public int money or public int cash. So how much cash does he have on hand, right? So he can deposit it and withdraw it. And then maybe we want to give each player a unique bank PIN code. So we can say here, public int, let's say bank PIN, right? So we can say a bank PIN, and we're looking for a 4-digit code or something like that. We can assign these values in the inspector. So that's going to be our player. So our player has a cash amount, how much cash the player has, and then we have a bank PIN for the player, which we can use for security purposes on the bank. So like if your account ever got hacked or something like that, like in RuneScape, they had bank PINs for everyone. I'm sure other games did that too. Okay, so on to our bank manager. Let's go ahead and define some banks. So what I'm going to do here, this is our bank here. And what I'm going to do is I can't add this directly on here, right, because it's not a mono behavior. What I need to do is I need a bank manager. So I'm going to go ahead here, I'm going to create an empty game object. We're going to name it bank manager. It's just going to be an object in the scene that's going to handle all the banks and info and money and stuff like that. So we're going to create a new C# script here, and this is going to be a bank manager. And remember the rule on manager classes. If you're only having one of them, for the most part, they should and can be singleton managers. I'm going to add the bank manager to bank manager. And let's go ahead and create our singleton here. All right, so we have here bank manager, and I need a private static instance of this class, so bank manager, and then underscore instance. This variable is private so that it can't be changed, and so that it lives for the life of the program. It's in memory for the life of this program. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a public static bank manager property called capital instance. Now, why is this one static? This one's static so you have easy access to it through the bank manager. So you say bank manager dot instance and then dot whatever public variables you want in here. So we have private static instance, and then here we need to get the instance, and we're going to return the underscore instance. So we're going to say return instance. Now before you return it though, you want to check if it's null. If it's null, you need to create the instance. So if underscore instance is null, meaning it doesn't exist, there is no bank manager, let's go ahead and create the bank manager. So we say game object go, that can be named anything, equals a new game object. Name it bank manager, and then we need to add this class to it. So we say go.addComponent bank manager. And I'll go ahead and zoom in here in case you guys can't see really. Zoom in. Alright, I hope that's enough. Alright, so now if it's not null, meaning it does exist, it's not going to do this, and it's going to just return the instance. Now before we're done here, remember we need awake, and that's going to assign the instance. So we're going to say the underscore instance equals this class, this object. Alright, there's our singleton manager. We're done. So now we can actually start defining some banks. So before we can do anything here, what do we want? How do we want to do this? In order to define a bank, don't forget we also need a constructor. Okay, so in our bank class here, I can't do anything. I can't create a new bank right now. And I mean, I can do it all through the inspector, but I want to do it through script. So this bank class needs a constructor. So usually constructors can go up here on the top, or you can put them below your variables or functions. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and put it here though. So I'm going to say here public, and actually, you know what? I am going to put it at the bottom. Sorry guys. Put it right here. So constructor goes here, and we're going to say public bank. And what I want to do here is I need to say we can have a name for the bank. And here I'm going to change this to bank name. Alright, so we have a public string, we have a name, we have a cache in vault, cache, or we can just say cache. Yeah, we'll just say cache. Okay, now we need to assign those values. So we say this.bankName equals the name you pass through to create. This.cacheInVault equals the cache amount that you pass through. And that should be all we need. So that's going to allow us to declare our variables when creating a bank. So if I go over here now and I go ahead and create a new bank, and actually I need a variable that's going to hold my bank. So let's say here we have an array of banks, okay? And that reminds me I didn't cover lists in the intermediate. That's okay, we'll use them for the advanced one. So here we have public, the type, so public bank, it's an array, and we're going to say banks, right? So we're going to say banks equals a new bank. And then say we just want one bank for now. All right, and if in the inspector, you'll actually be able to see it over here. And if you look here on the bank manager, we have banks. And we can define it here if we want to, but I want to do it through script. So we're going to go ahead here and void start. We're going to say banks equal a new bank. Oops, sorry, hold on. I need to say banks 0, which is the first element, equals new bank. And then I define the name. So I'm going to go ahead and say here, let's go and say BB&T. And then how much cash does the BB&T bank have? Let's go ahead and say 15,000. Alright, so they got $15,000 in their bank. So you can even do this for like a robbing system if you want to rob a bank or something in your game. Well, you know how much money they have, so you can do that. Alright, so how much money your thieves can walk away with. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at a system now for incorporating a client list. So we have our bank here, and we have $15,000. Now when you walk up to a bank, how does it know who you are? Like, where are you coming from? How do we know that this bank knows who you are, and it deals with your money and not another player's money. We need to create a client list, and that's going to be handled in the bank manager. All right, and I was experimenting here. Sorry, ignore that. So what we're going to do here is our manager is going to hold the clients of the game, and we're going to be able to use, each bank system is going to be able to talk to the bank manager to get the client list. Okay, so what are clients? Our clients are just strings, right? They're just names. That's all we're doing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, we can create a variable here. So we have public string array of clients. So the bank manager holds the client list. All right, and what we're going to do now is we're just going to say we have one client for now, okay? So we're going to say new string, and we have one client. All right, now we can define that client in the inspector, or here it really doesn't matter. We might as well do it in start since we're doing it for the bank. So let's just go ahead and say here, clients 0 equals a new, I'm sorry, we actually don't need this, it's just a string. So I just gotta say client 0 equals Jonathan. And if we go to Unity here, and if we check on the bank manager, you'll see here I have a clients array, and when we run the game, it's going to populate bank name, cash and vault, and then you have clients, Jonathan. So if you have multiple banks, you want your player to be able to go to multiple banks, right? So it makes sense that the banks aren't responsible individually for the clients, but the manager class is, so that you can go to all banks. So we have our banking system here. We have our clients. So what we're going to be doing is when we walk up to that bank, we're going to grab the name of the player, and we're going to compare it to the client list. So how do we do that? Well, in order to do that, we need a player variable, or we need a name variable. So we're going to say here, put it here, so we're going to say public string name, or we'll say my name. All right, and I can assign that in the inspector. So here's the player. We're going to go ahead and say, here we go, we have my name. We'll say Jonathan. The cash I have in my pocket is, say, $68. And my bank pin will say it's 0011 for the bank pin. All right. So, so we have that set up. Now, what could we do here? What's the next step? How do we make this work? How do we make it? The simplest one is going to be checking your balance. So that means that the bank also needs to know about my balance. Okay. So what's my balance? And actually, would it make more sense to save the balance on the bank manager, or would it make sense to save the balance on the player, but the player can't access it? It might make sense to store it on the player, because what if you have, that way you're not overloading the manager. The manager can handle the clients, but maybe for the balance, actually, you know what? No, we can go ahead and do it, I think, on the manager. So let's go ahead and, let's go ahead and, we might create a separate class to handle the clients. All right, so here we have just an array of clients, right? But instead, what if we did another class? So we have our bank class. Well, what if we had a clients class that had the name and then how much money they had? And I can do that directly here in the manager class. You can have multiple classes. So this is already here. I'm going to go up above here, and I'm going to say here, public class clients. And it's just a normal class. I believe in order for this to work, though, you need a semicolon here. I could be wrong. That might only be for structs. And the reason why I'm not using a struct here is because I haven't covered that, which I will in the advanced series. All right, so we got our clients. Every client has what? We have a name. And then every client has money. So public int money, or, yeah, we'll say money. All right. And I think for now, that's really all we need. So we have a name and money, how much money we have, right, in the bank. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and recreate our clients array. And we're going to go ahead here. We're going to say public clients. Actually, I'm sorry. We're going to rename that to client. So public client clients equals a new client. And we're going to specify it as... we're going to say public client array, and then clients equals new client. And we're going to have just one client for now. And then let's go ahead and define that client. So what is that client? And real quickly, just to show you that custom class, I think I have to serialize it, but I'm not sure because it's mono behavior. We're about to find out. So on the bank manager, you have the banks but no client. So to fix that, let's just go ahead and serialize it. You're going to go over here, system.serializable, head back over to Unity, and there you go. So clients. So we have 0, so we have a name and the money. There we go. So let's go ahead and define this client now. So that we have a bank that we define. Now let's go ahead and define the clients. So we have clients equals a new client. Sorry, we need clients, the first client equals a new client. And this client, it's not showing us, I wonder if we need a constructor on that class. I don't think so. I should be able to just say new client. Oh, actually, no, hold on. I should just be able to actually do something like this. Clients, so client 0, yeah, here we go. So I'd just be able to say access the element in the array and then dot money. So how much money does he have in the bank? We'll say I have $1,000 in the bank. And then here, above that, we're going to say clients, the current client, and then we're going to say dot name equals Jonathan. All right, there we go. So now we define the bank, we define the clients, all in this class, all in the manager class. So let's go ahead and open this up. Here we go. If we run the game now, you can see here the bank is BB&T, bank name, and cash in vault. And then here we have, so banks, we have BB&T. Then here we have clients. So check this out, clients. You have Jonathan. So we have name, Jonathan, and money, 1,000. Now I'm kind of interested because it's showing, it's weird that it shows the first property like that. It's pretty cool. What if we have 2 clients? Oh, it just creates new Jonathans. Okay. Yes, that's bad. Alright, so we got Jonathan and then we have BB&T. And I'm wondering if we even need the name. How's it getting that name? Interesting. Let's just take a look at it for a second. I guess it's just how it works. Alright, so we know we have a client list now and we have a bank. So let's go ahead and start doing the easiest functionality, which is checking your bank balance. In order to do that, we need to walk up to the bank. Alright, and when we press like the 1 key when we're at the bank, it's going to print out our balance. Before it can do that, we need to enter in, say, we need to compare our PIN. And that PIN is going to help it look up. Actually, no, I'm not going to probably do the PIN system right away. What we need to do when we click the 1 key when we're at the bank is we need to compare my name, which is in the player class here. You'll see here in the player class, right, we have a variable for my name. We need to compare that to the client list to see if there's a name, there's a client named me, like Jonathan. Now, what if you had 2 Jonathans? Well, that's where the bank PIN comes up. So you check the name, you also check the player ID, and you check the bank PIN. So there's just more security things you can do. Also, typically in games, you can't have the same username, so you never really have to worry about it. Alright, so how do we make this work? What we're going to do here is when you walk up to that bank, so here's the bank, I'm going to go ahead and make it a trigger here, and we're going to make its collider a bit bigger. So in the forward direction. So when we walk into it, we'll be able to press like the, down key or something like that. And let's see here. We have our bank. Let me see. So we have our bank class. And then here is our bank manager, which controls all the info on the banks. So what does this guy need? This guy may just need to be able to check for triggers, I think. Let me see here. Let's go ahead and create a script for him. Let's go ahead and name it, let's go ahead and name this let's have a webcam bank script. Give me 1 second here. Trying to figure out how to do this. Alright, so we're going to have a walk up to script, or I'm sorry, a walk up to bank script. So we're going to have here C# script, we're going to have here access bank, and we're going to put that on the bank game object. Now this function here is going to be in charge for checking the triggers. Right, so we're going to have here, we're going to have void on trigger enter. Now when you pass through it, we need to do collider other, which is going to take the parameters. So whatever collides with it is going to be stored in other. We want to check if the player collided with it. So if other.tag equals player, so we want to check if it's a player. So if the player did collide with it, we need to start doing the bank stuff. All right, so we need to know first off, for instance, access bank. We can have here, what bank is this? So this is access bank. This could be, for instance, what we would do is we would have a variable of type bank. So we'd have here public bank, and then we would say bank, I guess. And what we're going to do now is in void start, we're going to go ahead here, we're going to say bank equals, and we're going to go into the game manager now, or the bank manager. We're going to say bank manager dot instance dot banks, and we're going to get the bank list. We're going to get the first bank. So if we go and just run this here, let's go ahead and also give my player a tag of player. You'll see here that the bank is now populated with a bank. So we have a bank option. Bank name, cache, and vault didn't populate like I wanted it to. What's the bank manager say for 0? Should have been BB&T, but it wasn't. One second. Here's our bank. I wonder if it's happening too soon. I wonder if this needs to be, out of curiosity, let me see here. Bank equals bank manager banks, the first bank. Yeah, I think these are getting called at the same time, so it's blank. So to fix that, let's go ahead and, that sucks. Here, we'll set the bank property when you enter the trigger. Let's try that. So let's go ahead and run it. We have a tag of player on our bank. I'm going to walk into this trigger here. All right, so I walked into the trigger, and if we look on the bank now, hey, there we go. So now it says bank name BB&T, $15,000. The reason why that was happening, guys, is because void start on the bank manager and void start on access bank ran at the same time, so it didn't process what bank it was. It's just execution of script order. All right, so it's a common thing. There are workarounds to it, but that's not what this video is about. All right, so our bank has a bank assigned to it, right? So we have cache and vault, and we have bank name. So what are we going to do in this bank? Well, in this bank, you'll notice here that we have some functions we can call. So if the tag is player, all right, now what we need to do is we need to check if the player is a client. And then once we check if it's a client, we can go ahead and check the balance. The way you're going to do that is you say bank dot, and you'll notice here, look what we have. We have all the functions that are part of our bank class. So we're going to go ahead and define logic in there once we do that. All right, so here we're going to say if other.tag equals player, then we need to check if we're a client or not. So the way we do that is we're going to go ahead here, we're going to say if, and we need to access our client list now. So we need to say bank manager dot instance dot clients. So we're going to check the client 0 dot name equals other dot, we need to get our player component dot my name. All right, so if the client name equals my name, then we're going to just debug.log. You are a client of this bank. Let's go and try that. So let's go and walk up to the bank, and there you go. You are a client of this bank. Good. So we're registered to the bank. Now let's go ahead and check our balance. So here we have a check balance, okay? Now when we do that, we need to take a parameter here. Well, actually, we might not even have to. basically what we need to do is we just want to debug.log our balance. So what do we need to do? So when this function is called, we need to debug the balance that we have. So the way we do that, the balance that we have, right, is stored, is it stored here? Yeah, it's stored in our clients list. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to use our bank function. So our bank function is basically going to go ahead and say here, we're going to say check balance. And what it's going to do now is it is going to grab our balance. So we're going to say int balance equals bank manager dot instances dot client. Now what client do we pass through? We need an array, it's an array. So that we need to actually add a parameter here. We need to pass through the index, right, of our client. So we're going to say here int index that we're going to pass through. So we say int balance equals instance clients and then the index that we're currently on, the current client. And then we're going to grab the money. So the balance equals the money. And then here you're just going to go ahead and say, we can just say now debug.log balance is, and we can say here balance. Alright, so now we need to actually make use of this check balance function. So how do we do that? So what instance are we in the client list? Now what if we had 100 clients? We actually need to iterate through all those clients and then check, okay? So the way we're going to do that is in our bank script here, in our access bank script, where instead of just checking the first one, because what if it's not the first one, right? You have 100 clients, we're actually going to do this through a for loop. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to do for, we're going to say int I equals 0, I less than the client list, which is going to be bank manager dot instance dot clients dot length. So for however many clients we have, we're going to run through this list. And what we're going to do is we're going to check the current client and see if it equals to other.player's name. Okay? So we have to say if the bank manager dot instance dot clients, the current client, which is I, if the name of that client equals other dot get component, the player component, and then dot my name, it means we have a client. So you are a client. And then now we're going to go ahead and have it check our balance. So now we're going to call our check balance function. So we're going to say here, we're going to say bank.checkBalance, and it's asking for an index. Okay, and that index is going to be the current index we're on, which is going to be I. Alright, and actually if we wanted to, we could probably pass through a client, which maybe actually would be better. Let's pass through the client, and then we can just get their balance that way. So here in the bank script, instead of saying balance equals bankmanager.instance.clients index.money, let's go ahead and actually pass through a client. So let's go ahead and say client, and then we'll say client. Alright, and what it's going to do now is it's going to basically just go ahead and say int balance equals client.money. There you go. So here we're just going to say balance again. So balance is, now let's go ahead and test this out. So back in our player script, we're going to say here, bank.checkBalance, instead of passing through that, we're going to pass through a client. So we're going to say check balance, and it's asking us to pass through a client. So I'm going to say here, check balance, we're going to say bank manager dot instance dot clients, and we're going to pass through the current client, I. And that should be it. So let's go ahead and test that out. So when we walk up to the bank, there you go, balance is 1,000. Now let's go ahead and do that again, but this time let's go ahead and change our balance. So in our bank manager here, we have 1,000. Let's go ahead and say we have $90 in the bank. All right, so if I walk up to it, balance is 90. So there you go. Now we have a functioning bank manager that can give us the balance. Now what about for deposit and withdrawal? So if we want to deposit, we need to, technically we need some sort of thing to enter to tell us how much to deposit. Now, I'm gonna not do that because that's a lot of GUI stuff related. So I'm just gonna make it say if we hit the 2 key, regardless, it's just gonna deposit $100 every time. Okay, and then it will retell us our balance. So let's go back into our bank class here, which is gonna define that functionality. So when we deposit, okay, we need to grab the client. And what we're going to do here is when you deposit, you're taking money away from them, right? Or when you deposit, you're actually incrementing the client value. Now, when you do that, though, you're also decrementing how much cash they have on hand. And before you can deposit $100, you need to make sure they even have that $100. So, for the deposit one, we're actually not going to pass through a client. We may actually need the client as well, but what we can do here is we can say, we can deposit, we can say, no, I'm sorry, we do need the client because we're going to deposit to the client, but we also need the player, right? We need the player. So, we're going to ask for a transform, and we're going to say player. And that way we can just, or here, I can actually probably do this. I think I can do player and then player. So what's the logic for depositing? First thing you need to do is you need to check if they even have $100, okay? So you need to check to see if player.cash is greater than or equal to 100. So if they have $100, then continue. All right, so continue on with the program. If player.cash is greater than or equal to 100, else we'll say debug.log. We'll say not enough cash to deposit. All right, so if they have enough to deposit, though, what's the next step? So we take away their money, right? So the first thing is you're going to say player.cash minus equals 100. And then we need to add that to the client list. So we're going to say here, client.money plus equals 100. And then we're going to go ahead and debug.log. You have a total balance of, and we're going to say now, we're going to say client.money. So how much money is in the bank now? So deposit, looking for a client, looking for a player. So in our player, or I'm sorry, in our access bank method now, what do we need to do? So here, it's automatically going to go ahead and just run the balance check. All right, and that's fine. But what if we don't want to run the balance check right away? So I want to do it based on key input. So if a player ran into the bank, and now we can just check if they pressed a key. All right, so we can basically just go ahead and say here, if input.getKeyDown, we'll say keycode dot, what is our, can I do the one key? Okay, alpha 1. So if I hit the 1 key, we're going to go ahead and do all this. We're going to do that. Else if you hit the 2 key, so we're going to take this. Alright, so if you hit the 2 key, which is .2, alpha 2, I guess, then what we want to do now is we need to create the logic for deposit. So you hit the 2 key, and what are we going to do? We need to first check to see if you're a client again. And maybe before even doing that, and actually, I'm sorry, we're going to change this to onTrigger state too, so we can check for key input. So we're going to basically reuse this for loop, which is going to determine if you're a client or not. So if you're a client, then great. Now what do we want to do? So we don't want to check balance. We know you're a client. Now what can we do? We want to say here, we're going to say bank.deposit. Now what we need to deposit here is the current client. So we're going to say here bankmanager.instance.clients, and then the current client. And then we're also going to pass through the player. So I think we can do that by saying this dot player, this dot, how do I pass through the player? I might need to pass through a game object. I'm not really sure I can pass through. I might be able to say this. Let's see. Oh, here, other.player or other.getComponent player. There we go. Boom. I don't know if I need that semicolon there. We will find out though. Okay, so bank deposit. We're depositing from the current client, and then we're also passing through the player so it can affect it. So let's go ahead and test this out. Let's go and walk up to the bank. All right, so if I hit the 1 key, it's going to say balance is 1,000, which is correct. So here we have a cash on hand is 68. And then here, the bank manager says 1,000. Now if I hit 2, it should say I can't deposit. See that? Not enough cash to deposit. So if I go to my player and I put $101 in, and if I hit 2 again, you have a total balance of $1,100. My cash went down to 1, and then here in the bank manager, my money is $1,100. So now we have a functioning deposit method. So now when I hit the 3 key, I want to withdraw. Well, it's the exact same logic pretty much as the other bank script, as the deposit script. So here in the withdraw one, I need to take the client again. And I'm also going to pass through the player because I need to add money to his cash variable. And then here, we check to see if you even have the funds. Say right now, because I'm not doing any key input, say the minimum you can take out is 100. So if the client.money is less than 100, or I'm sorry, if it's greater than or equal to 100, you can take out. Else, debug.log, not enough to withdraw. All right. So if you do have enough to withdraw, if you do have enough to withdraw, what do we want to do? You have client.money is greater than or equal to 100. And then here, we're going to go ahead and say client.money minus equals 100. And then we're going to say player.cash plus equals 100 every time. All right, and we can go ahead and debug.log the current balance of their bank account. So we'll say remaining balance, and we'll say plus client.money. Alrighty, and let's go ahead and test this out. Once this works, I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes cleaning up our code, and then that will be it. So let's just test this out. Head on over to Unity here. We have $1,000 in the bank. We know that. If I go ahead and press 1 here, balance is 1,000. And here's the console so you can actually see it. Balance is 1,000. If I hit 2, not enough cash to deposit. Now, can I withdraw though? Okay, so I can't withdraw because I never actually created that functionality. So in the Access Bank, we need to check. So I can basically just retake all of this. So if you didn't hit the 1 key, if you didn't hit the 2 key, and if you hit the 3 key. So here, we'll say else if input to get key alpha 3. So if you hit the 3 key, we're going to check and see if you're a client. And then the line that's going to change is technically actually all of it stays the same. So here we have bank manager instance client I, other get component. And instead of deposit, we want to withdraw. All right, and let's go and test that out. Something broke. What happened? Oh, okay. All right, here we go. So let's walk up to it. You hit 1, we have 1,000. I try to deposit. Not enough cash to deposit. I don't have $100. Now, what if I withdraw? Can I withdraw? Okay, yeah, I can. So remaining balance 900, remaining balance 800, 700. So I just took out $300. So if I go to my bank manager, I'm going to see $700 in my bank. Now what about my player? $368 in cash. So everything's working as it should. And if I want to, I can now deposit. So you have a total balance of 800, 268 in cash, and my bank manager says I have $800. All right, so that completes our banking system. If I wanted to go up and clean some stuff out, real quickly, my bank manager, I don't know what kind of variables I'm using here, if I am. Actually, no, I was going to say I didn't really use properties much as I wanted to. But that's okay. So if I wanted to, these are classes. I could probably clean this up. Notice that we're doing the exact same thing here every single time. We're just changing one line, right? So I'm wondering if there's a way that I can just check the client the first time. Like I can just check the client while you're here. I don't need to check the client over and over. I can just do it once. So, and I can actually probably do that in on trigger enter. Let's just check right when you enter it to see if you're a client. And that way we don't have to run this every time you're at the bank, and it saves on processing. So let's go ahead and just do that. So for checking if you're a client, we're basically going to go ahead and say here, for int I equals 0 or less than that, if it matches, Okay, so here's the thing. So we have here, you're a client, so you're safe to use this bank. However, this is all done within there. It has no access to this onTriggerStay stuff. So we need a variable to declare. We need to know if you're a client. So we're going to say private bool, we'll say is client. All right, so private bool is client. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to say you're a client. So if you're a client, we're going to say is client equals true. And then here, we are going to go ahead and remove this for loop. Oh, and actually, you know what? Not only do we have to say is client equals true, I need to actually cache the client itself. So the way we need to do that now is I need to say here, private client, and we'll say current client. And that's going to equal this client. So we're going to basically go ahead and say here, client equals true, and then current client equals, the current client equals the bank manager dot instance dot clients, and then the current client we're on, which is I. All right, and if I'm going to go ahead and make this a serialized field, if I do that over a private variable, you'll see it in the inspector, just so we can see it work. So here we go. So we got we have our current client, and here we're doing that is client equals true. Then now what I can do here is I can say, and here I can do this as well. We can call that on trigger enter, assign the bank, and then also here if other.tag equals, let me see here. Yeah, we should probably check if it's a player. Definitely want to do that. All right, so we're going to take all of this, put it inside there. All right, so that's for on trigger enter. And then what else can we do here? So if other is tag is player, we definitely want to make sure we're still the ones in there. Then I don't need any of this. We're already checking that, but I do need to pass through a current thing to our balance method, like our current client. So we can clean this up though. We can all make it just one line of code here. Alright, so we have that. We can also do that for this one as well. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this if statement. Okay, and get rid of that. Alright, and one more. We're going to do it for this one as well. So we don't need this for loop. Don't need this if statement. Alrighty. There we go. Already looks so much better. Okay, so now how do we actually make this work though? Because now we don't have I. We don't have an index. Well, we have our current client, right? So what am I going to pass through here for this current client? Well, we're going to pass through current client. Erase that. We're going to pass through current client. And here we're going to pass through current client. So now the bank will know what the current client is directly, right away. What's it not like? On trigger enter, client's length, the bank manager instance dot clients I.name equals other.getComponent my name. What's it not like here? The name other does not exist. Oh, right, okay, I'm missing the collider. Sorry, guys. Collider other here. Alrighty, so let's go and test it out, and we should be good to go. So, on our bank, okay, on our bank here, you see we have a current client, name, money. Now watch what happens right when I walk into it. There you go. Current client, Jonathan, money, 1,000. And everything else will still work as usual. Balance is 1,000. I don't have enough cash to deposit. I can withdraw 100. Remaining balance is 900. And my player again will have 168. All right, guys. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this. You can do a lot of cool things with the intermediate concepts. In the advanced concepts, I'm probably going to start introducing structs. We're going to get into lists. We'll definitely probably get into, we're going to get into lambda expressions, delegates and events, event actions. There's some really cool language features that you can do with C#, and we'll probably get into abstract classes, interfaces, and just a lot of the advanced concepts. And the practical for that, can't even imagine what we'll be creating for that. But yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure you guys are following on Facebook, Digital Gaming Institute. If you guys have requests, feel free to do it. My book is out. Go ahead and get the alpha for it. The link's in the description. And yeah, that's it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Thanks.